Well, hello, Virgin America. I happen to be in Los Angeles this week for our annual Rock the Casbah charity event, and I thought it was a good time to share my thoughts with all of you on the recent union effort at Virgin America. You've come out with an airline unlike any other, and now I believe the TWU is trying to take that uniqueness away. This is the very same lot that was first in line to join one of your competitors in calling for Virgin America to be grounded forever just 2 years ago. And I believe that if they are allowed to succeed in their current efforts, the TWU would forever change what sets your airline apart in America. I'm so proud of what you have built here, and I, along with many, many travelers who are cheering for this team, look forward to the day when you fly to 40 cities. So what I'd ask is, please get informed about what is at stake with this election and understand that every single one of your votes do matter. I hope you believe in the Virgin America difference as much as I do and vote to protect your independent spirit. And I urge you to say no to the old way of flying and to say no to the TWU.
Redistribution Party. Redistribution Party. Redistribution Party. Redistribution Party. Redistribution Party. Redistribution Party. Redistribution Party.
Hello and welcome to Mandatory Redistribution Party. I'm Jack Evans.
And I'm Sean Morley.
This ep is about celebrity billionaire, NHS suer and tax exile Richard Branson. What you just heard at the start of the episode was a clip of Branson in 2012 trying to convince American Virgin employees not to unionise.
It is the perfect little pick and mix of the Branson brand, angling himself as a philanthropist while smashing the power of Labour.
And he doesn't even directly own that Virgin business either. It just has the Virgin brand, but he still feels it necessary to directly interfere. But we'll get into that.
Thank you to those of you who support Mandos through Patreon and sharing episodes on social media. Your help will be remembered when we surpass Virgin as a brand.
You will be guaranteed a seat on Mando's Galactic when we launch into space at 15,000 miles per hour, as long as you sign the health and safety waiver.
It will also grant you access to premium poison when it goes awry.
If you don't have the premium poison, just eat the food, right? Because it's, like an airline. That's like a 90s airline joke.
Oh, that's good.
Reference.
What's the deal with the food?
Yeah, what's up with it? I'm not sure about leaving that in.
I had a friend who, he's quit comedy now, so when he used his joke, he had one where he goes, what's the deal with airline food? And then he'd say, there isn't a deal. Normally, the price of the airline is actually packaged in with the whole flight. That's good. Copyright Alex Derrick, who now works for like Deloitte or something. He's really messed up.
Thank you, Alex. Roll the app. Okay, I'm just going to read this out of context. Mm-hmm. We sat around in the church crypt. Slipped disc was one of the favourite suggestions. We toyed with it for a while until one of the girls leant forward. What about, she said, Virgin? We're complete virgins at business. And there aren't many virgins left around here, laughed one of the other girls. It would be nice to have one here in name, if nothing else. Great. I decided on the spot. It's Virgin. An extract from Richard Branson's Losing My Virginity.
What a name. So when is this conversation taking place?
1972-ish, I guess, whenever they came up with the original company. Do you want to hear the name of his other books?
Yes, please.
So that's from Losing My Virginity, subtitle, How I've Survived, Had Fun, and Made a Fortune Doing Business My Way, published by Virgin Books. There's also Richard Branson's Screw It, Let's Do It, and its sequel, 2007's Let's Not Screw It, Let's Just Do It, New Lessons for the Future.
So that's like a sequel that contradicts the previous book.
Business Stripped Bare, Richard Branson, Arctic Diary, a little bit of a change of pace, Surviving on Thin Ice, reach for the skies, ballooning birdmen and blasting into space. Screw business as usual. Globalization laid bare. Lessons in international business. This guy's so horny. What is his horniness?
Are there 3 books that start with screw?
Yes.
No, there's screw, and don't screw.
Yeah. Screw features in 3 books.
Yeah. Like when you talk about the trilogy, it's always screw, don't screw.
The Screw trilogy.
Yeah.
And then he's got Like a Virgin, Secrets They Won't Teach You at Business School. I always assume they taught tax evasion at business school, but whatever. The Virgin Way, How to Listen, Learn, Laugh, and Lead.
How to listen, learn, laugh, and lead. All at once.
And the latest 2017 piece, Finding My Virginity.
Right, okay. So what do you think virginity even stands for there? It's just another way for him to say business now, while being sort of a cheeky blue, like jab you in the elbows, giving you a wink.
Yeah, he just loves horniness. He's got a very, he has taken on from that Genesis event as told by him. He has taken a girl's idea that they call themselves a virgin, and he has made that.
His whole branding, it's like, whoop.
People talk
Sex.
People talk about personal brand, and he's just like, I'm a horny guy. Yeah. I'm a horny guy, but I refer to horniness all the time unless I'm in the Arctic.
Yeah.
Or the sky.
His whole brand will ensure that when he is buried, it will be under a giant pyramid, and it will be buried only with a business ledger full of dodgy-looking Tipp-Ex and a packet of condoms. That's him in a nutshell.
Before he dies, I think he's going to change his name to Virgin.
Maybe separated it out so that is a forename and surname. Mr. Gin. Yeah, I'm surprised he leaned into it so much, because I'm assuming that was what, 1976. So he had to make a branding 1972. Mm-hmm. So he's had to make a branding decision that has taken him the vast majority of his life now, and he's had to lean into that. So even if he didn't want to write a book called Screw It, he's like, who am I now? I've built myself. I'm just a golem that I have to inhabit now, full of weird entendres mixed with sort of vacuous business nows.
You brushed over some other things here. 1, the brand is someone else's idea.
Mm-hmm.
2, he almost called his business empire Slipped Disc. Slipped Disc Rail.
Yeah. I would love to have an access to the sliding doors universe where that one got through.
Slipped Disc Galactic.
Yeah.
And also the fact that this name was come up with in a church crypt.
That bit's been dropped, which is the kind of doomer edgelord element in favour of sort of sexually aggressive airplanes.
What he's saying is, this is where we came up with the brand Virgin. But if you read between the lines, this company was created at a satanic ritual. Some
bad energy was going into that. Some horrible, noxious, decomposed thoughts were present there. What do I even know about Richard Branson? I just know he's like the secretive big money guy. He's not like your Alan Sugars who wants to be front and centre and argue with Donald Trump. He's like the sneaky guy who just he kind of made New Labour when it came to being pally with the business lot. He was right there at the conferences.
Yeah.
And he sort of represents the cool, despite being really old and just loving being we're called Virgin. He is the cool end of business interests. I guess that's why he wants to go to space.
I mean, he's just, the nutshell of it is billionaire tax exile and privatisation profiteer that's also a hot air balloon pilot.
And because it's always got Virgin slapped on it, he's probably one of the easiest to kind of trace what he's up to, because a lot of these other companies, they own something at the top, and then you don't know where all the tendrils of Procter and Gamble go to, and you could own anything in your house. You'd be like, is this owned by Procter and Gamble? This is a human hair. Right?
It's because the brand, it's the opposite. How Coca-Cola own Innocent Smoothie or whatever.
Sure, yeah.
But it's sort of, it's not front and center. It's kind of hidden a few steps removed, right? But he's obsessed with putting Virgin on everything. That's the business model.
Everything. Even when he's doing stuff that should be illegal, he'll be like, it has to start with the word Virgin.
Yeah, the Virgin Human Trafficking Company.
Yeah, the Virgin Subterranean Blood Tunnel.
Just between his island and Epstein's island, different sides of the British Virgin Isles. Necker Island is the one that's like in the north, which is Branson's, and Little St. James is the Epstein pedo island. And what did you call it?
Subterranean blood tunnel.
No, in full?
Oh, the Virgin Subterranean Blood Tunnel. It was originally installed to make a sort of underground system between all their private hotels so they could reenact The Shining.
I mean, like, what do you think was more of a priority for Branson buying the island in the British Virgin Isles? Was it tax exile or, oh my God, it's the Virgin Isles?
What came first, you know? Which name came first?
I'm not even going to look it up. I'm going to assume Branson branded those islands.
Or just some kind of like primordial Branson, a great-great-grandfather who just owned pockets of land in the sea. Or maybe gambled on subterranean oceanic volcanoes, trying to name them early when they're cheap and just hope they erupt and create a landmass. That was the original gambling.
It could be. But that would also mean that he didn't just take the name Virgin from one of his employees. Every
generation has the same idea and it's always stolen by a woman.
From a different person in a crypt. Yeah, he's not like a rags to riches billionaire. Not that there's many of them anyway. He's from like an influential London family. The grandson of the Right Honourable Sir George Arthur Harwin Branson. Branson had started having kooky business ideas when he was a kid, right? You know, as you do when you're like 13 and you try and be an entrepreneur.
Yeah, you make like the American cartoon style lemonade stands, 50 cents.
So these were his two failed childhood business ventures. My source for this is, of course, the Richard Branson autobiography, Like a Virgin. When I was 13 years old, I tried to grow Christmas trees in a field near our home in Sussex.
Okay, yeah.
You know, you come up with an idea and then you have a field available in which to grow Christmas trees.
And do you think he just did that on his own? Just like he bought seeds, put them in the ground and tended to them over years, trying to grow trees?
The subtext is someone, either he owns this field or his family owns the field or the family is paying for someone else to look after this field of trees. Anyway,
can you imagine anything? Let's say the 13-year-old just has doing it illegally on a park, right? Which is all I can really conceive of.
That's actually cool. Rogue planting trees is cool. I know people who just go and do that.
Well, no, it's not.
It stops erosion.
No, but this isn't that. Planting any tree in a public place just to then later dig it up and sell it. That's not public good.
Just doing it in the park.
Yeah.
Or someone else's garden.
Excuse me, are you cutting down a tree in my garden?
Yes, but I planted it. Do you understand?
Actually, that seed. Remember that child with the trowel? That child was me, and now, 15 years later, I'm here to claim what is mine and sell it on for maybe £40. But the seed cost me 15p.
So, it goes on. He did this with his mate Nick Powell, and back into Branson's words, who would later become my business partner. What the
Parter? Just say Parter. If you just accept saying party, you don't need to correct yourself.
I'm going to say it intentionally this time. He would later become my business partner.
What?
We thought the trees would grow quickly and so be ready for harvest 4 years later. Over the Easter holidays, we dutifully planted 400 seedlings. Wow. Fair play. Do you know what? He actually deserves all his money because that would take ages. Then went back to boarding school and waited for our fortune to grow. We had worked out that when the trees grew to 6 feet tall, we could sell them for £2 each, generating £800 in profit from our initial £5 in seed capital.
£5 for how many seedlings?
Well, he planted 400.
Okay,
what are you doing? Are you doing maths?
No, I'm looking up how long it takes a Christmas tree to grow.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how long it can take a Christmas tree to grow?
No.
To 6 feet.
No. Go on.
This is why it sounds so outlandish. It takes 15 years.
How did they plan for... How did they...
Yep, no, we'll just wait 15 years.
This is what you get when you pay for private school. This is... Do you know what? It's not about knowing. It's about the confidence to go out and do it and take the risk. I continue. I return to the extract from Like a Virgin. But when we returned home that summer, we found that the local rabbits had feasted on all the saplings and our plans were ruined. So, i.e., they just planted them and just left them in unclear whose field. My next venture involved breeding budgerigars, as I knew that they bred quickly. Also, unlike the trees, I could sell them year-round rather than just Christmas. Wise. Do you know what?
Pretty good, yeah.
This is smart thinking. I realised that I'm ragging on a 13-year-old child, but I don't care.
You can do it. I will rag on any millionaire child. I rag based on wealth, not on age. If you're a baby and you got $1 billion, you're getting owned.
You've got to have a class analysis, guys. I calculated how much they would cost to buy, what their food cost, and how much I could sell them for. Then persuaded my father to build a huge aviary. Just like he's using this as an example of his like young entrepreneurial spirit, and it just the sentence.
My dad did it.
I persuaded my father to build a huge aviary.
Yeah. And do you know what I was saying before? Like, he said, I planted this, and I'm like, did a 13-year-old plant 400 seedlings? Can you actually imagine him with a trowel? 13-year-olds won't even, like, do their own washing. They're not planting 400 seedlings. And another clue that helps you link that together is, like, the language there. My dad built a giant aviary. Your dad did not build a giant aviary. Your dad parted with some cash and an aviary arrived or appeared. Yeah. There's no way your dad was like, well, it will take 6 months of work and 3 months of that is going to be research on ideal conditions that birds like to live in, looking up the right kinds of mesh, what kind of metals. You don't want them biting on the little grills if they're going to get lead poison off in it. And then 3 months is going to be hard labour. I've got to get the lumber in. I've got to get training. I'm not a carpenter, am I? He did not build an aviary.
The birds multiplied rapidly, and soon everyone in the village had at least 2. Okay.
Everyone in the village had 2 budgies.
Yeah, what the fuck?
I'm going to call that an outright lie.
And also, if that was true, how many of those budgies survived?
And that's bad business practice, because if you want to be known as the breeder, you definitely don't want to sell them 2 each, because then they've got their own
breed.
They're sorted. Yeah. They're going to all be competitors. Everyone is cross-trading budgies with each other now.
He wasn't.
Cottage industry out of control.
This is his proto business brain. He hasn't mastered it yet. This is the process he's going through. I returned to school after the summer holidays, leaving my long-suffering parents with the task of tending to my rapidly expanding inventory of birds.
Goodbye, Mother. Please deal with this 1,000 birds.
Wait till you see what his mum does. One day I received a letter from my mother saying that tragically rats had somehow got into the cage and eaten all my birds. It was many years later that Mum confessed to having been so fed up with cleaning out the enormous cage that she had deliberately left the door open. So his mum just got sick of doing this kid's work for him. So Dad supposedly built this aviary, and then Mum has been apparently left to actually do the labour of looking after these fucking birds.
But then rats got in and attacked
and ate them.
Dozens of birds. Do rats attack birds?
It doesn't scan, does it? Wait, like, okay, with this story ends with this line. Those stories may be comical now. Are they?
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, mass budgie death because of a child's incompetence and his mum. I'm not so sure. But looking back, it's clear I did learn a lot from those experiences.
Never planted another tree in his life.
Paid someone else to do it.
That is the end of me tending for and caring for living things. Lesson learnt.
It's not exactly rags to riches, Branson. I thought I would give... I've read 2 Branson autobiographies for this episode, and...
Which, as we learned, is actually a drop in the ocean. You've been quite lazy.
Yeah, I fucking recommend. They're worth reading. I don't want to get into just like reading out this guy's autobiography. It's all like, there's a bit where he takes on Saddam Hussein.
Is he a child still at this point, or
no?
So a few years ago, because I write for a magazine, they were doing a mail out to all their contributors and saying that they were partnering up with the Centre for Investigative Journalism. Do any of their journalists want to go there? And I'm not a journalist. I'm just a comedian that writes the satire section. But I was like, yeah, go on then.
Yeah.
I work evenings, so
Learning.
go on. I'll come on. And I spent a week at an investigative journalism miniature seminar thing.
Only for like borrowers and that, Smurfs.
It was tiny, yeah. You had to write with little matchsticks, dip them in a tiny inkwell made out of a thimble. And what they did, they taught you how to navigate Companies House. So every company that is registered with the government needs to make quite a lot of information accessible to the public via Companies House. They just teach you how to look through it, and they use Virgin as their lesson, because Virgin try to hide everything in a million shell companies and a million shell companies. But if you just know the trick, you can see exactly where the money goes. Would you like to try it now? Would you like to try it live?
Oh my God, learning. Let's do it.
Let's do live learning. So let's see if I can teach you this remotely. If you head on your browser to Companies House, it should take you to companieshousebeta.gov.uk.
The website I'm on is called find-and-update-company-information-services.gov.uk.
So if you search on that, something that sounds like it could be Virgin based, especially if you want to look into like Virgin Healthcare.
I mean, I've just searched Virgin, and we have Virgin Limited, Virgin Management, Virgin Care Limited, Virgin Wine Online Limited, Virgin Care Limited, Virgin Money PLC, Virgin Care Services Limited, Virgin Care Corporate Service Limited.
That is the tip of the iceberg. So this is the smokescreen. They have registered 1 million companies, each with similar sounding names. So if you're looking at what they're doing, you don't know whether you want Virgin Care Limited, Virgin Corporate Care Limited, Virgin Limited, Virgin Care and Health Limited. How are you supposed to navigate this? Pick one of those that sounds remotely interesting.
Okay, I've clicked on Virgin Care Limited.
Okay, so that takes you into, can you see Virgin Care East Riding LLP? So that'll take you into what activities are happening there. That got changed from Assura East Riding LLP. I think Assura is a private healthcare company. Got bought up by Virgin in 2013. If you look on the filing history, this is every piece of documentation that they legally have to send to Companies House, and all of that is public. What we want, the easiest thing to go is find the last accounts. The last accounts came through on the 24th of December. They sent it through on the day before Christmas. You can go and view that PDF. This is going to bring you to a large document. You want to go right to the very bottom. Here it will show you the account balance, the reconciliation of members' interests. You can see how much money has gone through that, 3.5 million. That's turnover, I think. And then if you scroll up, you'll see point 15, ultimate parent undertaking and controlling party.
The parent undertaking of Virgin East Care Riding LLP is Virgin Care Limited. Its registered office is 6600 Daresbury Business Park, Warrington, Cheshire. The LLP is a subsidiary undertaking of Virgin Holdings Limited, a company incorporated in the British Virgin Islands.
And that takes you right back to the British Virgin Islands, which is a tax haven. And you can use that on any company you like.
Virgin, the company, functions as just a private equity group. That's what Virgin Group Holdings is. So it just holds stakes in loads and loads of different things and creams off the profits. And also, in some cases, doesn't even own the thing. So do you know Virgin Media isn't owned by Virgin?
Right, so what, it's just a branding on top of some other business?
They obviously, I think they probably owned a part of it at one point, but I imagine they probably still own a small amount of it, but it's owned by a company called Liberty Global. However, Liberty Global have to pay royalties to Virgin Holdings for the brand Virgin. And the interesting is Virgin Media can actually make a loss. However, the royalties that go to Virgin, they keep making profits. Virgin Records is now owned by Universal Music Group, exactly the same thing. Virgin Group Holdings, they have to pay rent for the name, for the brand. Virgin Trains, they only own 10% of it.
That's insane.
It's insane.
It's like they're doing futures tradings on themselves. Someone might want to be us at some point, so we'll try and sell ourselves on.
That's exactly what it is. Well, they just get everyone else to try and take on like the debt and the risk, and they try and minimise the risk that they are exposed to and cream off the profits. A private equity firm's like an investment management company that just invests in. So this is investment is how, for example, Britain's imperial power economically still persists, right? So we don't need to formally have an empire anymore where there's the British, fucking Union Jacks everywhere. And you don't need to directly control a colony, because all you do is you can just buy up businesses and load them up with debt and just take the profits back to London, right?
You don't need to go into the old imperialism of taking a warship to another country and knocking building down and then building your buildings on it. That's so inefficient for a modern imperial power. You just send money over and you go, I've just bought out one of your central businesses and now the profits get creamed off to my house.
And you don't need to administrate it. You don't need to have your soldiers there. Well, and this is exactly what kind of Branson's doing on a micro level, because he's at the core of this business empire, but he's not managing anything day to day. Well, he directly kind of retired supposedly from doing that stuff about 2005, 2006. But the people running the equity company are, probably still very highly paid, very skilled at kind of manipulating these companies to ensure that Virgin Group Holdings makes a profit that goes back to Branson. But it's not like day to day his genius is necessary for the functioning of all these companies. Billionaires will go oh, well, we created all these jobs. And it's no. Thousands of people might be doing work, but what you're doing is extracting surplus labor and just creaming off the profits. And that is what you contribute.
And that takes us right back to Companies House, because what we're seeing here is just a million. It's just a million little it's just stuff down in paper. If you go to Virgin Healthcare Holdings Limited, that's job is to buy up NHS buildings and own them, right? But if you look what that company used to be called, in 2010 it changed from Virgin Recruitment, but before that it was called Orgasmic Wines Limited. These companies, they don't do the fact that you can rename what's supposed to be a wine company to a company that buys up hospitals. These aren't directors that are sitting in an office doing a specific thing. It just means that what this company technically owns is changed, and you can move a hospital's ownership between any of these little shell companies, and these directors, they don't need to go into the office and do anything, because the job of these businesses is just to own something.
That's their function. They are like capitalism in its purest form. And this is how you get rich, is by owning shit, not hard work. I mean, even the most successful things, it's oh wow, he set up a record label. To sell the Sex Pistols and the Human League's records? Did he make that music? Did he fuck? He just controlled the distribution, right? And also, so elements of the sort of Virgin Goliath, and it's confusing and complex to find out what is directly owned and what is not directly owned. But Virgin Care is one area, it's been in the news recently because he sued the NHS because they didn't give him a specific contract. But Virgin Care is basically loss-making, because what it's doing at the moment is just trying to get control. It is like the biggest private company in the NHS. So it sweeps in 2010 with the sort of Tory Lib Dem coalition that liberalised the market inside the NHS even more than New Labour had. And, in the last decade, it's had about £2 billion worth of NHS contracts. And you wouldn't know. So bizarrely for Virgin, the logo isn't anywhere. So you will go to a GP and it will say NHS everywhere. It will say NHS on any forms you sign. It will say NHS on the walls. It will say NHS on the badges of the staff. But in fact, they are all working for Virgin.
This is just what we saw with the Serco app, right? Because whenever it's NHS, the normal branding rules go out the window because you need the NHS on it. Because if you went into NHS and it just said Nestle on the wall, you would leave.
You'd go, well, what the fuck is this? Well, and also it enables you to blame all of the failures or limitations of the service you're delivering on the NHS, which down the line will legitimise, the NHS is failing, we need to bring it in. And then you can put Virgin or Serco, because you can say, we're coming to save the day. Virgin Care has 400 NHS services that it runs, which include GP practices, urgent care centres, minor injury units and walk-in centres, intermediate care services, community services, wheelchair services, prison healthcare, sexual health, community hospitals, neuro-rehabilitation, elderly care, health visiting, district nursing, services for children with complex mental, physical and sensory learning difficulties, end-of-life care and social care services.
Oh boy.
Are all being provided by the Virgin under the guise of NHS branding. And here's the interesting thing. None of it's profitable yet. And people will use that to say, Branson just knows that Virgin's such a good company that it can deliver this stuff more effectively. No, they're just playing the fucking long game.
Just like Uber's trying to help out these poor taxi drivers. Yeah, we're happy to not make a profit. We just want to make sure that people can get to the shops. We're just trying to help you out.
Loads of huge companies do not make direct profit this year. It's like Uber's one, Dropbox, Airbnb. There's loads of them. The stage they're at the minute is acquire market share. Loads of Branson's little endeavours have failed, like his budgerigar factory. That's because you don't know if people will need budgies or not, especially if you give them two and then they can put their own. You do need healthcare. You do need social care services. Prisons need healthcare. And he fucking knows this, or, his lieutenants in the Virgin hierarchy know this. That is why they sued the NHS for a payout of £2 million, because the NHS dared not grant them a specific contract.
But it's not like they're treating these businesses like as though they're these special things that can't afford to fail. They're just another business venture. So if it does go the way of the trees, just going, rats came in and ate all the hospitals, people are like, well, I'll just put this in as another funny tale in my 11th autobiography.
Screwing the NHS.
Yeah, it's what they don't teach you in business school. Because they were leaning into this like cheeky boy nudge nudge wink wink uncle with a leery smile branding that he was doing for himself, and they made Virgin condoms. The way that they marketed it, they were giving out like free samples, but there was sort of a mini scandal because a lot of those were stapled to a pamphlet with information about something they were trying to push, which obviously they didn't realise that they're not effective as condoms anymore.
The big famous one is Virgin Cola.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, do you remember that?
That's gone now.
Yeah. It's Branson's favourite. He says he liked it because he got to drive a tank into Times Square and also to create a cheeky bottle in the shape of Pamela Anderson.
Oh, no. I have seen the tank into Times Square, though. Can't quite see how that lines up with the Pamela Anderson Coca-Cola.
That failed because he basically tried to take on Coca-Cola, who are hugely established and absolutely ruthless corporation. So there's loads of stuff in his autobiographies where he takes on these like big businesses. Like they fuck him up because they're just bigger capitalists with even more resources and a current foothold. So he goes up against Coca-Cola, and Coca-Cola just use all their power to basically incentivize supermarkets to only put Coke on the shelves, or like British Airways against Virgin Atlantic. I think he eventually got like a lot of money of compensation from them because they were doing things like effectively hacking into the computer system that all the airlines kind of share at the airport in order to gather passenger information from Virgin. But it's hard to be sympathetic to like into-capitalists. You can't be like, oh, boo-hoo.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter. He's a billionaire.
They've never really put it on the line. When you have that much money, you are too big to fail. There's always something else. And a lot of your wealth is like hidden in assets anyway. It'd be so hard to become truly It's like Donald Trump has been bankrupted 1 million times over. He's never not lived in a palace surrounded by gold, though. You can't actually become... There's a documentary, and it's a documentary about like the children of the super rich. I can't remember when it was made. But like there was one where he's like telling like Tiffany Trump, they're walking like through New York and they see a homeless man, and Donald Trump like points out like it's a funny piece of trivia. That guy's actually got more money than me because he has $0 and I am in that much debt. And it's like, yes, sort of on paper, but like your standard of living will never change, and almost it's untouchable.
Well, it's not even reached a certain level, is it? Because both in the case of Trump and in the case of Branson, like if their life did go wrong, there's these like little cute stories about like, oh, Branson, he had to live in a canal boat because he couldn't afford a house, and it was like he lived in this 2000.
I bet it was like an absolute luxury gold-plated canal boat that goes 0 to 100.
But there's, it does, and there's interviews where he's like, oh, I had to buy this £2,000 canal boat, and then but if you adjust it for inflation, that's still like 15k that he just had in his early 20s to just drop and purchase the place he lived, so he wasn't paying rent. And like the risk, the idea that capitalists, so basically, the justification capitalists will use for them extracting a profit from a company is that they risked their capital, right? But as we've just pointed out, it's not really a risk, because what's the worst case scenario that can happen to a capitalist? Like, if they somehow lost all their capital, and also, I mean, this wouldn't happen, but they lost all their social links to all the other capitalists, so they truly went back to like zero, like a true zero. All the scenario they're in is, the only way I can make money now is if I sell my labour to someone else, i.e., the worst case scenario for a capitalist is becoming a worker.
Having to get a normal job.
The amount of times this guy's failed. So he set up a company, Virgin Brides. And then do you want to hear a little quip? So he was asked about the failure of Virgin Brides. He said, "We soon realised there weren't any."
Oh, I don't get it. What, all the potential brides had had sex already, or
Virgin Ooze?
Yeah, buying up the River Ooze.
No, Ooze, OOZE.
Okay, like Mr. Ooze from the Power Rangers film.
This is genuinely an alcoholic beverage that Branson tried to sell.
Oh, Ouzo, who's making some sort of Ouzo.
Oh no, it's like a WKD Alcopop. Well, like I think it's like a Red Bull with vodka type thing.
Ooh.
And it's just it just says Virgin Ooze on it.
Those words sound horrible on their own. Yeah, combining them sends it to overdrive.
It's horrible. Virgin Cars. So Branson thought he'd sell 24,000 cars in its first year, but they sold 2,000.
Yeah, rats came in and ate the cars. Rats came into the showroom and drove the cars away.
He actually got his dad to build the showroom, and he actually did a just dog shit job, and the whole thing collapsed.
Yeah. Dad, can you build me a car? I'm 98, son.
Virgin Wear, the underwear company, at the time of liquidation, they had to do a fire sale of 35,000 pairs of Virgin brand bras.
Amazing.
My favourite, and credit to Ava Liversidge for letting me know about this. So Richard Branson set up his own comic book company.
In 2006, Richard Branson founded Virgin Comics, along with Hindi film director Shekhar Kapoor and New Age alternative medicine advocate Deepak Chopra. The aim of the company was to corner a gap in the South Asian comics market, with a mission statement to
reinvent the indigenous narratives of Asia
by tapping into its
vast library of mythology.
But that's just one arm of what they ended up doing. The rest of their output was about bussing in celebrities with no history of working in comic books to create flagship works for the company. The bizarre summaries for these short-lived projects are still available to read in online comic book archives. There was Gamekeeper by Guy Ritchie, which follows the story of a Scottish gamekeeper who becomes an urban guerrilla to combat Russian paramilitaries. Doc Walloper by actor Edward Burns is about a 1920s New York gangster with a massive right hand. It's about the size of a football. There was Fated, a comic book authored by Michael Jackson, about a beloved pop star called Gabriel Starr, whose near-death experience turns him into an even more beloved supernatural being. However, production stalled on that project when the author's own near-death experience turned them into the corpse of a disgraced paedophile. A comic book spin-off of The Masked Magician, titular character of Breaking the Magician's Code, magic's biggest secrets finally revealed.
It's the show that magicians around the globe don't want you to see.
Zombie Broadway, written by David A. Stewart of the Eurythmics. New York is infested with zombies, and an unlikely group of actors must tame them using musical theatre. Otherwise, the president is going to drop a nuke. And lastly, there's Voodoo Child, a comic book created by Nicolas Cage and his son, Weston Coppola Cage. Voodoo Child is set in a post-Katrina New Orleans and follows the story of Gabriel, a mixed-race child of a white unionist and a black free woman caught and killed by anti-abolitionists in 1860. However, Gabriel is revived by a voodoo priest. Caught between the world of the living and the dead, Gabriel can never touch the ground nor go out in sunlight, and he's out
for revenge
against the descendants of the man who killed him, now a construction mogul whose firm is picking up all the contracts for reconstruction after Hurricane Katrina. Voodoo Child is very bad, but could easily be picked up by people who really wish Spawn was more racialised. Gabriel's dreadlocks poking out of the shadows as he whispers threats in Creole to his victims is very difficult reading, but not quite as difficult as the notes written by white British scriptwriter Mike Carey on the back notes of Volume 1.
As up close and personal as most horror is, this is also a comic book about a place, a unique and amazing city and the people who live in it. At this point, I have a confession that may disturb you. I'm British. Now, that doesn't bar me from writing about America, obviously not. I've written many books set in New York, Los Angeles, Nevada, Arizona, but then I've been to those places, and I'd never been to New Orleans. At some point when we were plotting out our first arc, I realised that this was going to be an insuperable obstacle. You can only bluff so far. In February of this year, I packed a case and headed out for the Big Easy, arriving a week before Mardi Gras. This was New Orleans shouting itself to the skies, saying in words, in music, in dance, and in a billion coloured beads, we're still alive, and we're still here. I think it was the epiphany that came to me on the Monday night when I was walking down Bourbon Street on a rainbow-coloured carpet of beads with a big-ass beer in one hand and a cigar in the other that justified the trip and got me on the right wavelength to write this story.
Voodoo Child, like all the other 26 comics that Virgin Comics launched, got axed when the company failed and was sold off just 2 years after it was registered. The story of Virgin Comics is a story of how wealth does not experience risk. Branson got to cosplay as the head of a comic book empire, inviting celebrities to cosplay as comic book creators, writers to cosplay as people who understand the lived experience of black suffering because they had a cigar. But the real risk falls to admin staff, IT departments, receptionists, cleaners, security, all the people that go into making sure an office can run. Because when this goes under, all those people are suddenly unemployed. But Branson's fine. Nicolas Cage is fine. Actually, Nicolas Cage isn't fine. He's a bad example. But you know, Guy Ritchie's fine. And a lot of these cleaners and security staff, I think a lot of them could have told you in a heartbeat that a story about a guy with a big fist just is not going to be the new Batman. Personally, I wouldn't be able to open up a greasy spoon on the side of a lay-by without putting personal bankruptcy on the line. I can't even subscribe to Netflix without squinting at my bank balance for a bit. But for the mega-rich, the world is wide open. A virtual reality some mothers do have them, where you can fail at as many jobs as you like, immune to consequence, immune to derision, letting the full spectrum of human experience wash across your brain like an endless blast of cosmic radiation. Bliss.
Like, if I did one of these things, if I set up somehow an underwear company or to sell a drink called Jack Ooze, and then it failed, that would then ruin my life. Right?
Yeah, you'd lose your friends and we'd all lose respect for you. Like, in addition to the monetary loss, it'd be like, Jack, what the hell have you done?
That's a weird U-turn, right?
Whereas with Branson, it almost makes him more likeable to like the kind of people that, you know, the cult of worship of billionaires, where they're like, he's a bit like me because I would have messed up that business as well.
Yeah, but that's what it's all, you know, like if you read this guy's books, he's all like, oh, it's okay to fail. You've got to be willing to experiment. It's like, yes, but someone built you a fucking aviary when you were 13 to mass produce budgies in. You had access to sufficient land at the age of 13 to plant supposedly 400 Christmas trees. Ordinary people do not have that fucking safety net, right? And that's without even talking about coup aid.
Well, let's go into coup aid.
Okay, so coup aid, you know Live Aid, the big concert back in the 80s to raise money to fight the famine in Ethiopia. You probably think of Queen playing it, you know, laundering their reputation after they broke the UN's cultural boycott of apartheid South Africa a few months earlier. Right, so in 2019, Richard Branson organised a sort of similar thing. He threw a concert on the Colombian side of the Colombia-Venezuela border to raise funds for humanitarianism. So a bit of context. Back in the 90s, the people of Venezuela brought about something known as the Bolivarian Revolution, a socialist movement led by President Hugo Chavez. Chavez got in, massively reduced poverty, mainly by nationalising Venezuela's oil, taking profits out of the hands of international capital, and instead putting that money into infrastructure and social services for the people. This was, of course, deeply unpopular with the business class of Venezuela and, well, the business class everywhere. Chavez's successor and current president is Nicolas Maduro, who the business class would quite like to overthrow and get those natural resources back out of the hands of the state and back where they belong in, well, their hands. All-out economic war is being fought against Venezuela. To this end, Venezuela's economy is very dependent on oil, so it needs to import goods from abroad. To do that, they need access to foreign currency or gold. to help the people of Venezuela out, the United States seized $7 billion worth of the country's oil assets, and the UK seized almost $2 billion of Venezuelan gold, which they've actually just recently had to give back because it turned out that was illegal. And the favoured replacement for Maduro is a guy called Juan Guaido. Guaido's party, Popular Will, is not huge in Venezuela. They're the 6th largest political party, and they're also heavily financed by the United States Agency for International Development. Guaido is also the guy that Richard Branson organised a concert with. Obviously, the Venezuelan people are suffering, and the concert was supposedly to help them. Maybe the United States, who had seized $7 billion of the country's oil assets, really wanted to help the Venezuelan people by giving them food. Maybe coup enthusiast Richard Branson, who has a long record of profiteering off the privatisation of state assets, has the best interests of the Venezuelan people at heart. Who's to know? So the concert was supposedly about addressing this economic crisis and sending aid to Venezuela. Now, interestingly, the aid was going to be coordinated by the United States Agency for International Development. Those guys again. And coordinated specifically by Elliot Abrams. What? The guy who overthrew the left-of-centre government of Guatemala in 1954. One of the ways Abrams overthrew Guatemala's government was by getting weapons into the country under the guise of, humanitarian aid. Maduro, because he's not an idiot, did not let the aid go over the border. So where did the money from Richard Branson's charity concert go? Well, it turns out it went to Guaido's representatives who, thanks to a leak from the Colombian intelligence services, we now know embezzled $125,000 of this humanitarian aid. Oops. Looks like once again, the rats have got into Richard Branson's budgie cage.
Hi.
Hi, Mum. Do you have a moment to talk?
Yeah, sure.
So, you know the podcast that I make with Jack?
Yeah.
We're doing an episode at the moment on Virgin and Richard Branson. And when we recorded the dialogue for the episode, I remembered that there was this thing with Virgin condoms a few decades ago where they were really bad. And I have half a memory that I know that through you somehow.
Yes, mates condoms. Oh my gosh, yeah. During the 80s, right up until then, like Durex and condom, there was like one brand, and then suddenly there were these new condoms, mates by Richard Branson. Around when he went to the family planning clinics, books advisory or whatever, you'd always get boxes of condoms, and suddenly there were these new mates condoms. But yeah, they very quickly got a reputation for not being very good. They broke regularly. Yeah, you'll have heard that one because I will have mentioned it before because, that's how you were born. Are you there? Sean? Are you still there?
Mandatory Redistribution Party was created and produced by Sean Morley and Jack Evans. Our title theme was created by Ella Jean, with additional music from Anton Rubenstein's Opus No. 3, performed by Paul de Bras, and Gloria al Bravo Pueblo, performed by the United States Navy Band. Thanks to Mark Powell for additional voice work in the Virgin Comics segment, and thanks always to you for listening, and to those of you who support us on Patreon and by sharing on social media. I hope there are no rats in your aviary.